There is a sound that every tanker knows, but few survive to describe. It is the crack of a kinetic energy penetrator breaking the sound barrier at Mach 5, followed milliseconds later by the liquefaction of steel. For the last 20 years, the tank war was dormant. We spent 2 decades fighting insurgents in pickup trucks, and people forgot what a real tank battle looks like. They forgot that on the plains of Eastern Europe, armor isn't about policing, it's about survival. They said the tank was dead. They said drones and javelins had made heavy armor obsolete. They said the British Army was too small, too old, and too slow to matter. They were wrong. While the world was writing obituaries for the main battle tank, British engineers, working in silence and collaborating with the best minds in Germany and Israel, were building a monster. They weren't building a replacement for the Challenger 2. They were building an apex predator. This isn't a story about an upgrade. This is a story about the Challenger 3, a machine so advanced, so heavily armored, and so lethal that it effectively renders the current generation of Russian armor irrelevant. The king is back, and this time it's not fighting fair. Welcome to Doctrine of War. Today we are dissecting the resurrection of British armored supremacy. The thesis for today is simple. The Challenger 3 is the strongest tank NATO has ever fielded because it represents the perfect fusion of 3 specific military philosophies. It takes the unbreachable nature of British materials science, marries it to the lethal efficiency of German ballistics, and protects it with the combat-proven paranoia of Israeli active defense systems. We are going to break down the smoothbore revolution that allows this tank to punch through enemy armor like it's wet cardboard. We will analyze the trophy system that acts as a shotgun against incoming missiles. And we will look at the digital brain that turns this 66-ton beast into a sniper with the situational awareness of a fighter jet. Let's start with the gun, because in tank warfare, if you can't kill what you hit, you are just a mobile target. For decades, the Challenger 2 was unique among NATO tanks because it used a rifled gun, the L-30A1. It was a beautiful piece of engineering, designed to fire HESH high-explosive squash head rounds. HESH was fantastic for demolishing bunkers and crushing concrete, which was great for the wars we fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. But there was a problem. A rifled barrel spins the shell. That spin is great for accuracy with high explosives, but it is terrible for modern fin-stabilized discarding SABO, APFSDS, rounds. These are the long, thin tungsten darts designed to kill other tanks. If you spin a dart, you lose energy. You lose velocity. And against the reactive armor of a modern Russian T-90M or the future T-14 Armada, velocity is everything. The British Army faced a hard reality. Their gun was obsolete. It couldn't fire the new super high-pressure ammunition that the Americans and Germans were using. The Challenger 2 could hit a target, but it could no longer guarantee a kill at extreme ranges. So they did something radical. They cut the turret open and installed the Rheinmetall 120mm L55A1 high-pressure smoothbore gun. This is not just a tube of steel. It is the gold standard of kinetic warfare. By switching to smoothbore, the Challenger 3 can now fire the entire suite of NATO standard ammunition. But specifically, it is optimized for the DM-73 round. Let's talk about the physics of the DM-73. This is a rod of depleted uranium or advanced tungsten alloy. It doesn't have an explosive warhead. It doesn't need one. When fired from the L55A1, specifically utilizing the longer barrel length to maximize propellant burn, this dart exits the muzzle at velocities approaching 1,750 meters per second. That is hypersonic speed. When a rod of dense metal hits enemy armor at that speed, physics starts to get weird. The metal doesn't just break the armor, it behaves like a liquid. The kinetic energy is so massive that the impact point undergoes hydrodynamic penetration. The tungsten dart erodes the armor plate like a high-pressure water jet cutting through steel. Against this kind of energy, the Contact 5, or relict, explosive reactive armor found on Russian tanks is practically useless. The dart is moving too fast and has too much mass. It punches through the reactive blocks, punches through the composite glacis, and sprays the interior of the enemy turret with molten shrapnel. This upgrade changes the engagement calculus. The Challenger 3 can now engage and destroy enemy armor at ranges where the enemy cannot even effectively return fire. It turns a tank battle into a turkey shoot. If you're starting to see why swapping a gun barrel represents a shift in the balance of power in Europe, hit that like button and subscribe to Doctrine of War. We're breaking down the hardware and the hard truths defining the next generation of warfare, and your support keeps this intelligence brief coming. The unkillable legend. But firepower is only half the equation. The legend of the Challenger isn't built on its gun, it's built on its skin. we need to talk about Dorchester. This is the informal name for the advanced composite armor developed at the British research facility in Chobham. The exact composition is still one of the most closely guarded secrets in the UK Ministry of Defence. It is believed to be a mix of ceramics, steel and elastomeric layers that shatter and disperse the energy of incoming heat rounds. The reputation of this armor is not theoretical, it is forged in combat. There is a famous incident from Basra, Iraq in 2003. A single Challenger 2 was ambushed. It was hit by 14 RPG-7s and a Milan anti-tank missile. The crew survived. The tank was recovered, repaired, and back in operational service 6 hours later. In another incident, a Challenger 2 survived roughly 70 hits from RPGs. The only time a Challenger 2 has ever been destroyed in combat was by friendly fire from another Challenger 2, proving that the only thing capable of killing a British tank is another British tank. The Challenger 3 takes this legacy and upgrades it. It features a completely new turret structure with next-generation modular armor. The specific details are classified, but the design philosophy is all-aspect protection. Unlike Russian tanks, which rely heavily on frontal armor and have weak sides, the Challenger 3 is designed to survive in a 360-degree threat environment. But in 2030, physical armor isn't enough. We have seen in Ukraine how deadly top-attack missiles like the Javelin and loitering munitions can be. You can't put 5 feet of steel on the roof of a tank, it would be too heavy to move. So, how do you stop a missile that dives on top of you? You don't let it hit you. Enter the Trophy Active Protection System, APS. The UK selected the Israeli-made Trophy system to protect the Challenger 3. This is a game-changer. It fundamentally shifts the defensive layer from passive to active. Here is how it works. The Challenger 3 is fitted with small Alta radar panels on the turret. These radars create a hemispherical detection zone around the tank. They are constantly scanning for high-velocity incoming objects, anti-tank guided missiles ATGMs, RPGs and recoilless rifle rounds. When the radar detects a threat, the onboard computer calculates the trajectory, speed and interception point in milliseconds. It determines if the missile will hit the tank or miss. If it calculates a hit, the system automatically slews a small launcher towards the incoming threat. It fires a spread of MEFP, multiple explosively formed penetrators. Think of it as a super-tight, directed shotgun blast of dense metal pellets. This interception happens roughly 10 to 30 meters away from the tank. The shotgun blast destroys the warhead of the incoming missile, detonating it prematurely or shredding its guidance fins so it tumbles harmlessly into the dirt. The crew inside doesn't have to do anything. They might hear a thud outside, but the system works autonomously. It is essentially a mini Iron Dome bolted onto the turret. This capability renders the vast majority of infantry-held anti-tank weapons obsolete. The standard Russian RPG-29 or Kornet missile simply cannot get through the trophy hard kill zone. It means the Challenger 3 can operate in urban environments, the graveyard of tanks, with a level of confidence that no previous vehicle could possess. But Trophy does more than just intercept. It traces the origin of the fire. The moment the system detects a launch, it calculates exactly where the shooter is standing. It slews the main gun or the remote weapon station directly onto the enemy position. The psychological impact of this is devastating. An enemy soldier fires a missile, watches it get swatted out of the air, and before he can even blink, a 120mm high-explosive shell is heading towards his face. It turns the hunter into the hunted. The digital brain. The gun makes it lethal. The armor makes it tough. But the electronics make it smart. And in modern war, the smart tank kills the dumb tank every time. The biggest weakness of the old Challenger 2 was its analog nature. It was built in the 90s. Its fire control system was excellent, but it was isolated. It couldn't easily talk to other units. The Challenger 3 is built around a completely new open electronic architecture. This is a fancy way of saying the tank is a rolling server rack. Every sensor, every sight, and every weapon is connected to a central digital backbone that processes data in real time. This allows for something called network-enabled warfare. The Challenger 3 doesn't just rely on its own eyes. It can receive target data from an Apache attack helicopter flying 5 miles away. It can receive a feed from a tiny surveillance drone hovering over a ridge. Imagine this scenario. A Russian T-90 is hiding behind a hill, waiting in ambush. In the old days, the British tank would have to drive over the hill to see it, exposing itself to fire. With the Challenger 3, a forward observer or a drone spots the T-90. They beam the coordinates instantly to the tank's fire control computer. The commander sees the enemy icon on his digital map. He doesn't need to see the physical tank. He knows exactly where it is. He can maneuver to a flanking position, pre-aim his turret and crest the ridge with the gun already locked on the target. This is see first, strike first. While the Russian crew is frantically scanning with their periscopes, trying to figure out where the threat is, the Challenger 3 has already calculated the firing solution. The sighting systems themselves are a generational leap. The Thales Orion primary sight gives the commander a hunter-killer capability. While the gunner is engaging one target, the commander can be scanning for the next one independently. The moment the gunner fires, the commander hits a button, the turret swings to the next target and the cycle repeats. It allows a single tank to engage multiple enemies in seconds. Contrast this with the competition. The Russian T-90M is a formidable vehicle, but it is fundamentally an upgrade of a Soviet design from the 1970s. It is cramped. It relies on an auto-loader that sits the crew on top of a carousel of high explosives, the infamous jack-in-the-box effect waiting to happen. Its situational awareness is poor. The commander has to look through small vision blocks. The Challenger 3 crew sits in an ergonomic, climate-controlled environment, surrounded by digital displays. They are protected by the hull ammunition storage, meaning if the tank is penetrated, the ammo blows outward, not inward. While the Russian tank is fighting a mechanical, analog war, relying on mass and numbers, the Challenger 3 is fighting a digital, precision war. It is the difference between a sledgehammer and a scalpel. Furthermore, the open architecture means the tank is future-proof. In the past, upgrading a tank meant cutting metal and welding new bits on. Now it's like updating your smartphone. You want to add a new AI algorithm for target recognition? Upload the software. You want to integrate a new laser warning receiver? Plug it into the bus. This adaptability is critical. The threats of 2030 will not be the threats of 2040. The Challenger 3 is designed to evolve faster than the enemy can develop countermeasures. The NATO shield. There is a criticism often leveled at the Challenger 3 program: there aren't enough of them. The UK is upgrading 148 tanks. Compared to the thousands of tanks Russia has in storage, this seems like a small number. But this misses the strategic point. The UK isn't trying to recreate the Battle of Kursk with thousands of tanks charging across the steppe. The British Army is building an elite, high-readiness force. The Challenger 3 is the tip of the spear. It is designed to be the heavy armor component of NATO's rapid reaction force. In a conflict in Estonia or Poland, these tanks would be the first heavy assets to meet the enemy. 148 Challenger 3s, operating in a networked environment with Apache helicopters, F-35s, and Boxer infantry fighting vehicles, represent a level of combat power that goes far beyond raw numbers. In Desert Storm, Western tanks achieved kill ratios of 40-1 against Soviet-made armor. The technological gap has only widened since then. One Challenger 3 with its 95% first-round hit probability, its trophy defense system, and its ability to see in the dark at 4 kilometers, is worth a company of T-72s. It also compares favorably to its Western cousins. The American M1A2 SEPV-3 is a beast, but it is heavy and runs on a thirsty turbine engine. The German Leopard 2A8 is excellent, but the Challenger 3 shares its gun and arguably has better armor protection. The Challenger 3 positions Britain as the heavy hitter of the European theater. While other nations are focusing on light-wheeled vehicles, the UK has doubled down on the concept of the heavy main battle tank. They recognize a truth that the war in Ukraine has proven. When the mud gets deep and the shelling starts, there is no substitute for 66 tons of composite armor and a big gun. The Challenger 3 is more than just a piece of equipment. It is a statement of intent. It is a signal that the United Kingdom is serious about high-intensity warfare. For years, we heard that the future of war was cyber or hybrid or light expeditionary forces. The Challenger 3 is a rejection of that idea. It is a recognition that at the end of the day, land warfare is about holding ground and destroying the enemy. And nothing destroys the enemy quite like a 120mm tungsten dart moving at hypersonic speed. The king is back. The land battleship has returned to the European plains. And for any adversary looking across the border, the sight of that silhouette, the Chobham armor, the smoothbore gun, the radar panels of the trophy system, should be a terrifying deterrent. It is the strongest tank in NATO. It is the ultimate shield for the alliance. And it is ready for whatever comes next. Thanks for watching Doctrine of War. Do you think 148 Challenger 3s are enough to make a difference, or does quantity still have a quality all its own? Let us know in the comments below. Stay sharp, stay realistic, and we'll see you